The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. These words are coming from former CBC journalist Travis Dhanraj, who is blowing the whistle on his now former employer. Let's get right into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Johnny Says So. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way in if you're new here. And if you're not new here, then you're probably aware that a running theme on this show is just how biased and one-sided the legacy media is here in Canada, particularly the CBC. This isn't news to me, and it's not news to a lot of you. However, we do have some interesting breaking news today to cover, and I want to get right into it. So Pierre Poilievre put this out on Twitter. A veteran host just blew the whistle. Question the state-funded broadcaster's narrative, and you get demoted or shut down. This isn't journalism, it's taxpayer-funded groupthink and liberal propaganda. Of course, that's nothing new. Pierre Poilievre covers this stuff a lot. He talked about it constantly during the election campaign. He had bold promises of defunding the CBC, and it's not hard to understand why, because the media game is definitely tilted towards the liberals in this country. I don't think there's any denying that. Now, he is reposting Brian Lilley of the Toronto Sun with this story. Former top CBC host blasts state broadcaster on the way out the door. Travis Dhanraj says CBC only pretends to like diversity, but doesn't support diversity of opinion. Wow, he's throwing it all out there, guys. He's calling them out for their meaningless virtue signaling. So to show you what I mean, here's an article from the National Post. A national CBC host announced his resignation from the public broadcaster Monday in a letter alleging he could not continue to work there, quote, with integrity. Travis Dhanraj describes leaving the network where the veteran journalist once hosted his own show. Quote, I am stepping down not by choice, but because the CBC has made it impossible for me to continue to do my work with integrity. After years of service, most recently as the host of Canada Tonight, I have been systematically sidelined, retaliated against, and denied the editorial access and institutional support necessary to fulfill my public service role. Dhanraj has spent 20 years in broadcasting with stints at Global and Bell Media. Quote, when I joined CBC, I did so with a clear understanding of its mandate and a belief in its importance to Canadian democracy, he wrote. I was told I would be a bold voice in journalism. I took that role seriously. I work to elevate underrepresented stories, expand political balance, and uphold the journalistic values Canadians expect from their public broadcaster. But, according to Dhanraj, what happens behind the CBC too often contradicts what is shown to the public. He accused the public broadcaster of, quote, performative diversity, tokenism, a system designed to elevate certain voices and diminish others. Dhanraj's lawyer, Catherine Marshall, said Monday that the CBC didn't want him booking, and I quote, conservative voices on his show. Now again, this isn't news to me, and it's probably not news to a lot of you, but this just goes to show you how biased the CBC really is towards one side of the political spectrum in Canada, and it seems to be a systematic issue, but I'm glad Travis is stepping up to the plate here to expose it. And this whole bit about the tokenism is very interesting. It turned out, to Travis's surprise, there was a strong editorial direction that he was supposed to promote, Marshall said. Dhanraj is of Caribbean heritage. CBC, when they hired him, thought that they were getting someone who would espouse a certain worldview, Marshall said. I think they looked at him and they looked at the color of his skin and they made some assumptions. Marshall is weighing making a complaint to the Canadian Human Rights Commission about her client's treatment at the CBC. His allegations would include discrimination, reprisal, and harassment, she said. Dhanraj was repeatedly denied access to key newsmakers. Internal booking and editorial protocols were weaponized to create structural barriers for some while empowering others, particularly a small circle of senior Ottawa-based journalists. Dhanraj said when he, quote, questioned these imbalances, he was met with silence, resistance, and eventually retaliation. I was fighting for balance and accused of being on a crusade. His show, according to Dhanraj, was rebranded, my name removed, my access curtailed, my medical leave was whispered about in the newsroom. Dhanraj claims he got in hot water over his April 2022 2024 post on social media platform now dubbed X about how the top CBC honcho at the time declined an interview request to discuss new budget funding for the public broadcaster. Dhanraj said he was presented with a non-disclosure agreement tied to an investigation about a tweet about the then CBC president, Catherine Tate. It was designed to not protect privacy, but to sign away my voice. When I refused, I was further marginalized. Marshall said that CBC wanted him to sign an NDA in exchange for his job. Dhanraj went on leave in early July 2024 and returned to full-time hours last December. Within basically the first week of his return, he was immediately retaliated against by CBC for not signing the NDA, Marshall said. He was at that point permanently removed as the host of Canada Tonight, and his salary got slashed, and it was evident at that point he had no future or career at the CBC. That's right, guys. Travis's departure from the CBC was so sudden that the guest that was invited onto the show had no idea he would be talking to a replacement until he got on air. Check this out. This is awkward.
Up politics on this Friday night. Thanks for being here.
Hey, I'm a little confused right now.
What are you confused about,
you're
my
not
friend?
Travis.
No, I'm not Travis. You figured it out.
Travis.
You are intrepid. Nothing gets by
this
you.
Is a great. I was thrilled to be asked to be on, but I'll be blunt with you. I only came on to flirt with Travis.
Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're not flirtable.
Get woke, go broke, CBC.
Okay.
But I have been sold a false bill of goods, CBC. They lied to me.
Well,
We've all been sold a false bill of goods, and CBC is lying to all of us. It's not just you, bud.
Keep the blunt.
Where is he? Is he hiding out? What's he afraid of? Where is he?
Okay, well, that's a message to Travis. Wherever you are, come flirt with Scott. But
So it turns out that Travis Dhanraj is not afraid of much. Check out this very interesting clip that I found from March of 2022. So for context, guys, this was at the very beginning of the Ukraine war, and it was also a time when Canada was getting absolutely hammered with record inflation, a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, and the government illegally enacting the Emergencies Act against peaceful protesters in Ottawa. And Travis had the nerve to ask Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Joly a real question. So this is from Travis's Twitter way back. Deputy PM Chrystia Freeland and Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly clearly did not like my question. Why is Justin Trudeau in Europe on the taxpayer dime while there are pressing domestic issues he could be dealing with at home? Here's the exchange. Watch this, guys. This is actually shocking that this came from a CBC journalist. No wonder he got into their crosshairs.
A lot of Canadians are back at home kind of wondering and watching this trip and seeing a lot of photo ops, a lot of broad platitudes, and not many specifics when it comes to details. Why couldn't these meetings been done from Canada? Why does the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Defence Minister need to be in Europe right now when there are a lot of domestic issues at home that are very important? And some people view this as a photo op trip to Europe.
Look at their faces, guys. He just pissed off all three of his bosses. Look at them, man. They are not happy with him. Boy, did he ever get reprimanded for this moment or what? Let's listen to Chrystia Freeland's non-answer.
Well, the only person I've heard saying that is you. But
there are many people that are saying that.
I was saying that.
This is a really, really important trip for the Prime Minister and for Canada. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is the most important geopolitical issue in the world right now. And the fact that the Prime Minister has been able this week to have direct conversations with our leading partners around the world is absolutely essential. It is his responsibility and his duty at this critical moment to be here having those direct conversations, particularly because Canada and the Prime Minister himself has a very close relationship with Ukraine. We have a very good understanding of what the Ukrainians need, and having the Prime Minister...
And apparently not a very clear understanding of what Canadians need. Also, I'd like to point out that this was March 2022, and they just sent in police with horses to stomp on peaceful protesters over vaccine and mask mandates. So where's your mask, Chrystia Freeland? I can see some masked up people behind you. Do you not believe your own bullshit? Man, I'm so glad Travis actually asked her a tough question. Real journalism, folks. That's what it looks like. No wonder he got fired from the CBC.
Able to have those conversations makes a big difference. And I will point out, these are very sensitive security issues. And it's hard to have these conversations even over secure lines. So it makes a big, big difference to have these conversations and to have these meetings. I would say that you could judge us as a government to be derelict in our duty to Canadians and the world were we not rolling up our sleeves and being involved in these direct, very substantive conversations.
I'd say with the benefit of hindsight, you were derelict in your duties as a government to send Ukraine billions of our taxpayer dollars while things fell apart here at home. But hey, that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments.
If I can add, dealing with millions of people fleeing Ukraine throughout Europe being dispersed and thousands of lives at stake, millions of lives at stake is not platitude. And I don't think Canadians.
I mean, the American president is doing it from the White House.
My colleague Blinken and Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris is in Poland tomorrow.
Just to say,
I love how she just dismissed what Joe Biden is doing. That tells you something right there. He referenced the American president, and Chrystia Freeland just looks at him smugly and just goes, well, Kamala Harris is here. So, yeah, she knew what was up even then, guys. So in my opinion, at least, this was the exact moment that Travis found himself in the crosshairs of the liberal establishment and their lapdogs at the CBC. Man, it's so egregious that Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Joly still have their jobs, and Travis was pushed out the door for doing honest journalism. Now, the CBC put on a very good propaganda campaign to get Mark Carney elected, and boy, is he ever grateful for that. Now, this is an older clip of him on the campaign trail, basically pledging to add way more funding to the CBC. So, why would the CBC bite the hand that feeds them by keeping Travis on? Check this out, guys. Mark Carney wants to, quote, enshrine, protect, and strengthen the CBC. He calls it the most important Canadian institution. CBC receives $1.4 billion of taxpayer dollars annually, and only about 4% of Canadians tune into their programming. Embarrassing.
Canada's identity and institutions are under attack by foreign interference. And instead of defending them, Pierre Poilievre is following President Trump's lead and taking aim at our institutions like CBC Radio-Canada.
Pierre Poilievre is taking Trump's lead? Well, then what are you doing, bud? Whatever happened to elbows up? You are elbows down big time. Well, benefit of hindsight again, guys.
Pierre Poilievre pretends that you can keep one but not the other. But he's not Solomon. You can't split this baby. His attack on CBC is an attack directly on Radio-Canada, and it is an attack on our Canadian identity. If elected, my government will take action to enshrine and protect and strengthen CBC Radio-Canada for generations to come.
And apparently make sure that they don't do real journalism or ask real questions or question you at all. God, are we living in a banana republic?
We will modernize the mandate of our public broadcaster. We will give it the resources it needs to fulfill its renewed mission and ensure that its future is guided by all Canadians and not subject to the whims of a small group of people led by ideology. When it comes to this most important...
The whims of a small group of people led by ideology. Huh. Sort of sounds like exactly what happened when Travis was sent out the door, now doesn't it?
...of Canadian institutions, all Canadians should have their say, not just a small group. We will not only increase CBC Radio-Canada's funding by $150 million, but we will also make this funding statutory, meaning that Parliament as a whole will need to approve any future changes to its funding, not just the Cabinet.
So guaranteeing that you have your government mouthpiece. Unbelievable, guys. And finally, Dhanraj has put out a statement and a call to action on his Twitter account. The dream that turned into a nightmare. They tried to crush me. I'm still standing. By now, many of you know I'm no longer at CBC. What you may not know is what it cost me and why I had no real choice but to walk away. After more than 20 years in broadcast journalism, this wasn't the move I imagined making. I spent years in small markets and local stations working my way up to the top. My own national primetime program. But when you speak up inside a system that rewards silence, when you speak truth to power, the consequences come fast, and they come hard. My career, my livelihood, all gone. This experience nearly broke me, but I'm still here, and I'm not backing down. I still have my voice, and I intend to use it, because this isn't just about me. It's about trust in the CBC, a public institution that's supposed to serve you. It's about voices being sidelined, hard truths avoided, and the public being left in the dark about what's really happening inside their national broadcaster. I have no doubt there will be efforts to discredit me, to paint me as a bitter or disgruntled. That's what happens when you challenge power. If you believe Canadians deserve answers and transparency from the institutions they fund, leave your email below. When the time is right, I'll pull the curtain back, I'll share everything, I'll tell you what is really happening inside the walls of your CBC. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your continued support means the world to me. So if you're interested in learning more, check it out, drop your email, and join his mailing list. Now, I'm certainly interested to learn more once Travis decides to drop it, but I'm not so convinced in his view that the CBC is a trusted Canadian institution anymore. Now, he seems to think that maybe it can be, but I'm not so convinced. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think there's any hope in an honest CBC, or is it just too far gone at this point? And that's going to be my show for today, guys. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.